Hi everyone. So I've decided to start posting some videos on immigration, specifically because the majority of my practice does involve immigration. So I don't do business immigration or any kind of immigration that relates to working or a company filing for someone to come and work here. My practice is specifically family based. So anything family based immigration, that's what I do. So I'm going to start by talking about the most popularly filed petition in this area, and that is the adjustment of status. Um, Specifically, I'm going to talk about the one for spouses. Later on in another video, I'll do the one for parents for child, or children for parents, or siblings. So, with regards to marriage based petitions, and I'm going to do fiancés at a later date as well, but I'm specifically speaking today about marriage based petition. So, the reason why I chose this topic today is because there have been a lot of changes in the immigration world right now, and specifically from the last 8 months, 10 months or so, there's been a lot of changes. It started with the documents themselves, the petitions. They changed the dates on the petitions. So people were filing petitions not realizing that the date of the petition had changed and their stuff was getting rejected. So that was where everything started. And then most recently, there have been directives regarding marriage based petitions, specifically, and this is not verbatim, but specifically, USCIS officers have been directed to look at every single marriage based petition that they pick up now. It's taking effect as fraudulent. Those weren't their words, but that's necessarily what they're saying. That every petition that they pick up, you have to scrutinize it from the get go. So, for marriage based petitions, I know a lot of people don't believe this is happening, but it's not just happening now. This is something that was happening a long time ago. It has just gotten more rampant. Field officers. Field officers are officers that go out into the field, as their name suggests, and watch, just to ensure that what you have on your petition is actually factual. So they'll go to your work, they'll go to your houses, they'll stake out, they'll observe, they'll see who is going, who is coming. When you go in for an interview, they know when you're there whether or not your marriage is fraudulent, or at least for the most part, they have an idea if it is or not. So let's start with the I-130 petition, and that's the alien petition for alien spouse. So that's the first document that is filed, and it's filed along with the I-130A, which is a petition that the beneficiary files. So those two petitions cannot be filed one without the other. And a lot of people try to do this on their own without knowing this and get rejected. So I always tell people, when you're filing nowadays, get the assistance of an attorney. It doesn't necessarily have to be me, but this will prevent a lot of errors and a lot of delays in your case. So if you're doing a spousal adjustment or petition, it can be done in one of two ways. Your spouse can either be in the country or out of the country. So if your spouse is out of the country, it's a different process than if your spouse is in the country. So let's talk about if your spouse is here in the US. So if your spouse is in the US, then you'll have to file, in addition to your petition for alien relative, an adjustment of status because you're already here. And an adjustment of status petition is going to ask you for a lot of information on your whole life story. I had a client ask me, why don't they just take my kidney? That's how tedious it is. And you have to be specific. You can say, oh, I worked at Walmart October of 2023. No, they want specific dates: date, month, year, format. And sometimes submitting a petition in the wrong date format can cause a rejection. So before I forget, let's talk a little bit about rejection. So when USCIS rejects a petition, they send out what's called a RFE, which is exactly that, request for evidence. So they're asking you for something. Well, my understanding nowadays is that that went through the window. So if you submit your petition and you miss something, let's say, for example, they have a list of required evidence, and this is initial required evidence. So it's not specific to what you have to submit, but in order for your petition to be considered, those initial required evidence have to be submitted, even if you want to submit additional things with them. If you miss any of those required evidence, in the past, they would send out a RFE and ask you for it. Today, not so much. They're just denying your petition outright. So one have to be very careful when they're submitting petitions on their own, or when they're asking people who are not attorneys to do it for them. Normally, when I do spousal petitions, I file concurrently everything. That is the petition for alien relative, the adjustment of status, at the same time, not one before the other. So I normally also file an EAD. That's an employment authorization document, and that's what we know as a work authorization. So those are the three main petitions that I file. Now, I always tell people, don't put yourself in a position where you're going to get denied for something. There are some clients that I have had in the past that say, oh, I want to file for a travel authorization so I can travel while this petition is being processed. I always try to encourage people to get your affairs in order. This way you don't need to travel for another year or two until this process is complete, because that petition is very expensive. As a matter of fact, I believe it is one of the most expensive petitions, and I have never seen where one has been approved before an adjustment has been approved. So it's a waste of money, in my opinion. All right, so for the adjustment while your spouse is here, you're going to need to do a medical. And USCIS has on their website a portal where you can type in a civil surgeon and type in your zip code, and it will tell you which civil surgeons closest to you offer that service. And of course, it's going to be a fee that you have to pay the doctors in order to do the medical. Now, that medical, once done, the envelope cannot be opened. It has to be sealed, and it's required by USCIS for the doctors to sign or stamp across the envelope so that they know that it's not tampered with when it comes in. If you have an attorney representing you, they have to submit a document showing that they're representing you. I usually submit also a notification petition, which means that when USCIS gets the petition and takes it in, they notify you, the client, that the petition has been accepted. This way you know the process has started. So that is just the basics of the marriage-based petition. If your spouse is overseas, you submit only the petition for alien spouse with the beneficiary petition. And once USCIS processes that, some time will pass. Once they approve it, they send it to the National Visa Center. And the National Visa Center will in turn process it and send it to the embassy of your spouse's country. Once they get it at the embassy, there are some steps and procedures that you have to take in order to prepare yourself for the interview in your country. And once you go to that interview and it's conducted, they'll determine whether or not you qualify to come to the US. So that is an entirely different process from the adjustment when you're here. I typically, like I said, recommend for persons, especially in today's world, that are doing immigration, do not do this on your own. It might seem simple. I have seen people come to my office who are very highly educated that have been denied and struggled with this process. It is not as simple as it seems. And not only that, but there are some little things that will trip you up. Fees are the biggest thing that trips people up because they don't know how to submit fees, and when they submit it thinking it is correct, it gets rejected. And USCIS is not in the business of explaining to you what you did wrong. You're going to get a rejection letter with a very vague explanation of why your petition was rejected. And that is why they too also have on their website that you should not have anybody who is not barred in a state in the US to represent you in your case. So if you have an immigration family-based case and you live anywhere in the United States, I can represent you. So don't hesitate to call Francis Law Firm. My phone numbers are 404-500-6665 or 678. What's my other number? 678-549. I forgot my other number. Use this one, 404-500-6665. That's the easiest number to remember. My website is marshaslaw.com, MARSHAS law.com. And you can find my reviews on avo.com, avvo.com, and just type in my name, Marsha Francis, and you'll see the cases that I've done that clients have reviewed me on. And if you have any questions, just give us a call. We're here for you. Thanks. Bye-bye.